so, so sorry that this touched my life in any shape, form, or fashion, or anyone that I love or care about, or anyone. And I'm truly, truly sorry with every ounce of my soul.
When Texas police waded into alligator-infested waters searching for clues, they had no idea they were racing against time in one of the most horrific cases in the state's history. A young mother had vanished without a trace after visiting her children, leaving behind only bleached bloodstains and the overwhelming stench of chemicals. But the killers hadn't counted on one thing. Even acid couldn't completely erase the evidence of their crime. Welcome to the Case Files, where we explore the most shocking and mysterious cases in criminal history. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a case that rocked the entire United States. Today, we're traveling back in time to 2011, to the state of Texas, where fierce American alligators lurk in murky swamplands, and where a brutal conspiracy was carried out, with the hope that wild nature would conceal their crime forever. In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the Alligator Creek murder, the Laura Ackerson case, a story of love, betrayal, and the price paid when greed crosses every moral boundary. Chapter 1. A woman with dreams of being a good mother. Laura Ackerson was born on April 30th, 1984, in Michigan, into a broken family with 7 siblings. Her troubled childhood created within her an intense longing to build a happy family and become the wonderful mother she never had. At age 20, Laura moved to North Carolina with nothing but empty hands and a heart full of hope. Life wasn't easy. She had to work as a waitress during the day, serve at a bar at night, while studying online to get her degree. But Laura never gave up. Her beautiful face and optimistic smile won over everyone around her. In 2005, Laura's efforts paid off when she found work in graphic design. And it was during this time that fate brought her to meet a man who would completely change her life, but not in the way she expected. Chapter 2. The Fateful Meeting. Grant Hayes, or as he liked to call himself, Grant Hayes as his stage name, was an unknown singer-songwriter who regularly performed at bars. He was tall, charming, and always talked about his grand musical dreams. Laura fell head over heels from their very first meeting. After just a few short months of dating, they got married in a small church. When Laura shared the good news with her brother Jason, the only family member she still kept in touch with, he expressed concern about this rushed marriage. But Laura believed she had found true love. The early days were truly like a fairy tale. Laura wholeheartedly supported Grant's musical dreams, and soon after, they had their first son. Laura thought her perfect life had begun, but reality was completely the opposite. Chapter 3. When Dreams Became Nightmares. After having their child, Grant began to reveal his true nature. He didn't care about taking care of the family, only blindly pursuing his musical dreams. Even worse, Grant started using drugs with his friends, coming home intoxicated and abusing Laura. The beatings, the threats, and the control became increasingly worse. Grant forbade Laura from socializing with friends and family. Every time she called someone, he would fly into a rage and assault her. Laura gradually became completely isolated, left with only fear and despair. But the most terrifying thing was Grant's insane ramblings. He regularly boasted about being a time traveler and that the Earth would end on December 31st, 2012. These wild stories made Laura even more frightened about her husband's mental state. Chapter 4. The Appearance of Amanda, the Fateful Third Party. To make money, Grant decided to go perform in the U.S. Virgin Islands, leaving Laura and their son at home. There, he met Amanda Hayes, a former actress who had appeared in films like The Stepford Wives and The Sopranos. Amanda, 35, had gone through 3 failed marriages and was living alone with considerable wealth. Grant quickly seduced her, even forgetting he already had a wife and child. When Laura discovered the affair, Grant didn't hide it at all. He casually said he was only involved with Amanda to get her money. Laura's heart was broken, but she still tried to save the marriage, especially when she discovered she was pregnant with their second child. Laura decided to move to the Virgin Islands to live with Grant, hoping to salvage their marriage. But her health condition wasn't stable, and they had to return to North Carolina. Grant continued his degenerate lifestyle, throwing loud parties at home without caring whether the children could sleep or not. Chapter 5. The Final Shock. In 2010, Laura saw wedding photos of Grant and Amanda on social media. They had gotten married. When Laura confronted him, Grant casually replied, "We just exchanged rings in a church, just a ceremony, but not officially registered. Who I want to marry is my right." That was the last straw. Laura was determined to divorce at all costs and fight for custody of the children. The legal battle began, and Grant revealed his evil nature in court. He accused Laura of having psychological problems and being unfit to raise the children. The court decided to make temporary arrangements and thoroughly evaluate both parties' mental states before making a final decision. Laura felt this decision was unfair, but she could only silently accept it. Chapter 6. A Mother's Final Struggle. Determined to regain custody of her children, Laura began a new life. With help from her brother Jason and friends, she found work, working 2 jobs simultaneously: graphic design and waitressing. Grant and Amanda moved to another city to care for the 2 boys, and Amanda also gave birth to a daughter for Grant. On weekends, Laura would arrange her work schedule to pick up her 2 sons. By 2011, when Laura was 27, her life had taken positive turns. She regained her optimism, her career developed well, and most importantly, she was confident she would regain custody of her children. But just when everything was going well, tragedy struck. Chapter 7. The Death Trap. On July 12, 2011, Laura received an email from Grant, something extremely unusual. Grant asked if she wanted to visit the 2 boys on Wednesday. Laura was surprised because usually Grant only wanted her to see the children as little as possible, but the joy of seeing her children made her forget all suspicions. On the afternoon of July 13, 2011, Laura left her home in Kinston, driving to Grant's apartment in Raleigh, about 80 miles away, roughly a 2-hour drive. At 4:12 p.m., she texted Grant, "I'm leaving the Kinston area now. I'll call after I get out of the traffic jam. Where will you be in about an hour?" That was the last message Laura ever sent. She never knew she was walking into a deadly trap that had been prepared for her. Chapter 8. The Fatal Night. What happened in Grant and Amanda's apartment on the evening of July 13th remains a mystery. According to later testimony, Grant and Amanda had planned to kill Laura to permanently end the custody dispute. They lured Laura there under the pretense of resolving child custody issues, but actually to murder her. By 9 p.m. that same day, Laura's business partner Stephen couldn't reach her. They had planned to meet to discuss work, but Laura's phone couldn't be reached. Stephen thought Laura was busy caring for the children and not paying attention to her phone. Several days later, still no one could reach Laura. People thought she was too busy caring for her 2 sons to remember to charge her phone. But by Monday, July 18th, when Laura didn't go to work and still no one could contact her, Stephen felt something was wrong and decided to call the police. Chapter 9. The First Clues. Police came to Laura's house to check and found nothing unusual, but they discovered a diary by her bed. The diary recorded all of Laura's daily activities, following her lawyer's advice to help her regain custody of the children. The last entry was written on July 13th. "Today I will pick up my 2 sons from Grant's apartment." Through security cameras at Laura's apartment, police confirmed that on July 13th, she had driven out alone and never returned. Based on this clue, police concluded Laura had disappeared at Grant's apartment. On July 20th, police searched Grant and Amanda's apartment. As soon as they entered, they smelled the strong odor of disinfectant and bleach. There were white spots on the floor that appeared to have been bleached with chemicals. The house was unusually tidy and missing many items: shower curtains, some carpet pieces, a vacuum cleaner. Chapter 10. Chilling evidence. In Grant's room, police found two important items. First was song lyrics written by Grant himself, describing a man dealing with a woman in his house. Second was a document stating Laura agreed to give up custody rights for $25,000 with Laura's signature on the back. Police compared this signature with the handwriting in Laura's diary. Everything matched. However, the authenticity of this document was questioned. Everyone knew how much Laura loved her children. If money could solve it, why would she bury herself in work to prove her finances and fight for custody? Laura's lawyer also declared that recently she often expressed concerns about her personal safety when having to meet Grant. Chapter 11. The hunt begins. Although Grant was very suspicious, there was no solid evidence to prove he had killed Laura. Police decided to launch a comprehensive investigation into Grant and Amanda, monitoring all their activities from the day Laura disappeared. Through surveillance cameras, police discovered that in the early morning of July 14, just hours after Laura disappeared, Grant had bought safety goggles, a reciprocating saw, gloves, and bleach. During these days, no one could determine Amanda's whereabouts. She had asked others to watch her 3 children. On July 16th, Grant bought a large cooler and rented a U-Haul truck. The rental company said Grant told them he was going to Texas. Then he, Amanda, and the children began their 200-mile journey to Texas. Chapter 12. Journey of Death. Grant and Amanda visited Amanda's sister Karen Berry, who lived near a creek in Richmond, Texas. According to Karen, Grant's family had visited unexpectedly on July 18th without advance notice. They seemed tense and worried. Strangely, they asked very specific questions about the alligators in the creek and whether they could borrow a boat to go fishing. Karen also remembered Grant telling her, I heard her really bad." On July 19th, at a store in Texas, Grant bought more chemical-resistant gloves and muriatic acid. That evening, Amanda borrowed money from her sister to rent a boat and go out to the creek. Chapter 13. Racing against alligators. Based on these clues, police were able to reconstruct Grant and Amanda's chain of actions. There was no doubt, these actions were aimed at destroying evidence. If Laura was in the alligator-infested creek, perhaps the fierce alligators would help Grant handle the rest. To find evidence as soon as possible, Texas police mobilized all forces, deploying teams across 200 miles along the creek to search for Laura before it was too late. On July 24, 2011, Houston Police Department's dive team made horrific discoveries in Oyster Creek. They found 2 torso parts and a lower leg floating among underwater vegetation. The next day, with help from professional divers, they found a skull and thigh bone. Several weeks later, a worker from the Gulf Coast Water Authority found another thigh bone. Although the body had been destroyed by acid, what police had predicted from the beginning was completely correct. This was Laura Ackerson. Chapter 14. Shocking testimony. Police officially arrested Grant and Amanda. While awaiting trial, an important witness emerged. Pepper, a cellmate of Grant's. Pepper told police that when Grant entered prison, other inmates knew about his crime and attacked Grant. Pepper had helped Grant, and out of gratitude and possibly carelessness, Grant confessed the truth. Grant said he had called Laura to his apartment under the pretense of resolving the custody dispute. When Laura arrived, with Amanda's help, they took care of Laura. Then Grant bought tools to handle the rest. finally driving 100 miles to Texas to ensure police would never find evidence. Chapter 15. The Court of Justice. The trial of Grant and Amanda was extremely dramatic. These two blamed each other throughout the proceedings. Amanda testified that she was in the room with the 3 children and didn't know what was happening outside, only hearing loud arguing. When she stepped out of the room, she realized everything was beyond saving. Grant threatened her and demanded help with the subsequent actions, or else she would meet the same fate as Laura. Grant blamed Amanda, saying Amanda did everything because she didn't like his ex-wife and didn't want Laura to regain custody smoothly. However, prosecutors didn't accept these defenses. One of the strongest pieces of evidence against Grant was a song he had written and recorded himself, like a prior declaration of what he would do to Laura. Chapter 16. The Verdict of Justice. On September 16, 2013, after only 2 hours of deliberation, the court reached its verdict. Grant Hayes, 34, was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for first-degree murder. Amanda Hayes was sentenced to 16.5 years in prison for second-degree murder in North Carolina. But that wasn't the end. Because the evidence tampering occurred in Texas, Amanda later faced a second charge. In 2018, in Texas, Amanda was sentenced to an additional 20 years in prison for tampering with evidence, human corpse. At that time, Amanda was 46, meaning she would have to wait until age 82 to be free, if she lived that long. Conclusion. The Laura Ackerson case isn't just a story about a brutal crime, but also a profound lesson about the price paid when greed and selfishness cross all moral boundaries. Grant Hayes, with his narcissistic nature and desire for control, couldn't accept losing power in the dispute with his ex-wife. Amanda Hayes, who may have started as a victim, ultimately became an accomplice in an unforgivable crime. Laura Ackerson, a 27-year-old mother with the simple dream of raising her 2 sons, became the victim of a brutal conspiracy just for wanting to fulfill her responsibility as a mother. Her life ended tragically, but justice was ultimately served. Laura's 2 sons, now grown up without their mother by their side, must live with the pain of losing their mother and the truth that their own father was her killer. This is perhaps the heaviest punishment Grant must bear, not only losing his freedom, but completely destroying his children's lives. Thank you for following the case files today. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel, hit like and share to support us in continuing to bring you other shocking cases. Please leave a comment below. What do you think about the court's verdict? Was Amanda truly a victim or an accomplice? And what case would you like us to analyze next? Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episodes of the case files. See you in the next episode with another mysterious case. Goodbye and stay healthy.